My name is Stefan Kartman. Welcome to my studio. Today I'd like to talk about the vibrato exercise that uses Galamian scale rhythms. This exercise is designed to help learn control over the speed of the vibrato and also to have control over the way you use your vibrato. So the exercise itself is designed to go through various speeds from the Galamian scale system, from 2 notes to 3 notes to 4 notes to 6 notes. And what we're looking for is a very smooth curve of pitch. Now this is best demonstrated by looking at any one of the programs that draws pitch for you. For instance, Tunables is a program that I use, and let me just switch camera angles for a moment, if I may, so that you can see both my left hand and you can see in the corner of the screen the program Tunables. Now Tunables is a program that registers pitch by drawing a white line. The center of the pitch is going to be right in the middle of this green line, and anything below pitch, so for instance if I'm starting with an E natural, I can pull it back until it's right in the middle. And you can see that as you stay on a certain pitch and you're accurate to the middle of it, as long as you're in that green zone, which is very close to the pitch, it's going to start expanding. I guess that's its way of rewarding you for staying on pitch. In any case, I'm going to use this program to demonstrate the curves that I'm looking for in this vibrato exercise. We're going to be going from a wider vibrato to a narrower vibrato, and unlike the exercise that is on page 20 of An Artist's Guide to Cello Technique, what I'm going to be doing is repeating the first couple of speeds so that you can see more obviously the curve of the vibrato. Anyway, easier if I just demonstrate. So here's metronome at 60. I'm going to find my pitch first. Try and find it right in the center as close as I can get it anyway. It's very accurate. Okay, from here I'm going to go above and below the pitch. So that's an example. You can see from the, if you can see this on the video, you can see from the video that for the first part of the exercise, I was well outside of the green zone, let's call it. And then as the variation in pitch took on a greater speed, then the variations in pitch became narrow and narrower until eventually I was just kind of staying in that green zone and the thing lit up. Now, don't expect this to be perfect. If you'll notice on mine, I've been doing this quite a bit. And mine kind of jumps around, especially at the smallest pitches. But it's good to keep on this pitch registering program, because you can see when your pitch starts to deviate. For instance, sometimes when we change the speed of our vibrato, sometimes what happens is the pitch goes down or it goes up. Now that could be because as we try to intensify the back and forth motion in our elbow, we lock towards a certain direction. We may lock backwards or we may lock forwards. When you do this exercise, it's important that the first thing that you do is try to find the center of where your finger feels the pitch is. So let me go back again to my vibrato cam. Technology. Okay, so if you'll notice, if I'm directly in the center of my pitch, and try and find it again. Okay, so I found the center of my pitch. If I feel like I'm already pulling my finger back a little bit and the end of the finger is stretched backwards like this, then when I do my vibrato, let's say I start kind of stretched back like that, when I do my vibrato, it's naturally going to lean me above pitch. And you can hear that the pitch sounds like it goes up. Well, that's because the center of my vibrato came up. And what I've found so far is that generally speaking, if we can keep the pitch center that we mean to have right in the center of my finger's vibrato, that's when I have the most ringing vibrato sound. I have the closest to a true in tune vibrato. So instead of going from a little bit sharp as I just did and pulling back and then trying my vibrato from there, that, as you can see, restricts all of my vibrato towards the back part of the finger. What I'd rather do is pick my finger up a couple of times, put it back down, and really try and find where the center feels in my finger. That's pretty close to center. So now, as I'm playing my vibrato, I feel unrestricted forward or backwards. And if I've really found true center, when I push my finger all the way to the front, I get a certain height above pitch. And when I pull it all the way back, I get more or less the same height below pitch. So that's what I'm searching for when I try to find the center of where my finger feels the vibrato and where I'm going to work with my vibrato with the pitch generator. Of course, you want to do this vibrato exercise on every finger in fourth position. And each one of the fingers as you use them for your vibrato, I'm going to turn the pitch generator off for just a moment. Each finger as you play it, it's important that as you do your vibrato, the vibrato motion itself takes you in a straight line, or as close as you can get to it, in a straight line down the string length, right? Now, one of the things that happens to people when they do vibrato is sometimes if their finger or their knuckle is a little bit on the tight side, what will happen is when they do their vibrato, the pitch, instead of staying along this line as if these knuckles are on a slider, right? What will happen is they'll roll their forearm, and the finger does create difference in pitch, to be sure. And you can get quite a wide variety of pitch. But because it's so tight within your hand as you do this, there's a couple of reactions. First of all, it's more difficult to get a pitch center. It's possible, but it's more difficult. And then the other thing that happens is because your hand is constantly changing this plane, as you're doing your vibrato, your other fingers will tend to be farther or nearer to the string depending on which part of the vibrato you're in. Now, the reason why this is a problem is because it creates intonation issues. If you're vibrating and trying to get to the next pitch, quite frequently what will happen is as you're going forward, your pitch will tend to react by, strangely enough, going backwards. And the reason for that is that the cant of your hand has changed from from an angle that's like this to an angle that's like that. And the fingers, no matter what you do, they're going to strike true and straight to where the hand is. So when my third finger comes down at this angle, it's actually coming down backwards in pitch, closer to the low pitch. And when my hand is canted backwards like this, my third finger tends to go forward in pitch. And that's just the way we're built. There's nothing we can do about that. It's very difficult for us to change the spacing as we're doing this. And that's one of the inconsistencies that can happen in people's vibrato. So people that have this particular issue with their vibrato, where they're rotating their arm all the time and the finger is kind of tight into the hand, which is its own set of problems. Generally speaking, when they try to play in tune, what will happen is they will stop the vibrato and then add it. And that creates, let's say, a musical gesture that's unintentional. It creates kind of a mannered effect of having vibrato always delayed, like perhaps a Broadway singer or something like that. So we want to be able to go from one finger to another in tune and get that next finger down at the same angle as the former finger, right? And then when you do your vibrato, if you can make sure that your finger stays along this line as you do the vibrato. Now this requires certain things to happen. One of the things that has to happen is your knuckle has to be loose enough to make this work. So as you do your vibrato, what you should be seeing, if you look down at your finger, is that this knuckle, the initial knuckle right in here, that this knuckle is bending and flexing as you do the vibrato. In that way, you can see that different parts of your finger are actually touching the string through the vibrato stroke, right? Now, another thing that has to happen in order for this to be accomplished is that your thumb back here has also got to bend and flex. So what this requires is that you're only pressing down enough to get the string down, and that your thumb is very light on the back of the neck. Okay? Now, one of the things that I've found as I've been working my vibrato exercises is that each finger has a slightly different balance and feel within the hand in order to find that magic center part of the pitch. When you're on your first and second finger, your thumb will tend to feel a little bit more forward to your hand. When you're on your third and your fourth finger, it will tend to feel a little bit back. And that's just because of the balance of the hand. If you try and keep your, you'll see, if you try to keep your thumb forward as you do a third finger vibrato, it creates a lot of tightness and discomfort. Same thing with the fourth finger, of course. So in relation to the third and the fourth finger, your thumb is going to feel as if it's much farther back than when you have your first and second finger. In reality, the thumb is not moving willy-nilly on the back of the neck like this. I'm just talking about the balance of how it feels in your hand. Okay? So these vibrato exercises need to be done in fourth position first, I think is the best place. And the reason why I say that is because that's the best place for you to get this push and pull feeling that's generated from the elbow. Because the speed of your vibrato and the width of it should first come from here, and then if your fingers are loose, it should also be timed exactly so that the vibrato itself comes into that knuckle that I was pointing to before when we had the vibrato cam on. Okay? So as you push and pull, here's the rhythm and width down in here, right? And here is the fine muscle control that allows you to have different pitches within the vibrato. Because if you move your hand back and forth and you keep this very tight, well, what will happen is you'll have to wind up having to slide back and forth on the string to create vibrato, and nobody, of course, does that, right? It's much more important that the knuckle itself takes up the shock of motion from the elbow, okay? Now, let's talk a little bit about how things might change when you go into first position. Because when we're in this position, when we're in fourth position and beyond, really what we feel in here, in this part of the arm, is a kind of push towards the bottom of the instrument, pull back towards your face kind of feeling, right? As you get up here, things are a little bit different because your arm, no matter how you handle it, well, I shouldn't say no matter how you handle it, but if you're leaving your arm in kind of a comfortable, relaxed position, what's going to happen is that the arm is coming in now to the string from a different angle. In fact, it's also in a different position. This part of your forearm is in a different position in relation to the back part of your arm. So while this upper part of your arm is not necessarily doing a lot of rotating, when I say rotating, I mean as if that part of the arm is turning this way. When you're not doing a lot of that when you're in fourth position and beyond, because this stays relatively stable and the pushing and pulling that you feel is pretty much from the elbow. As you get back into first position, however, this part, your forearm, is now kind of above your upper arm, right? When that happens, what goes on in the arm is that this part of the arm floats above this part. So in order to do the vibrato motion, rather than pushing and pulling, this part, your upper arm, is kind of rotating like that. You'd see this effect if you held your hand away from the instrument and did the same thing as the vibrato motion. And then as you come in here, what happens is this upper part, this part here, is doing that rotating motion to accommodate the back and forth motion that's going on in the hand. Now the thing that doesn't change, of course, is that the knuckle itself is the thing that takes up the shock. But I've seen people try to get a uniform feeling for vibrato by getting this same push and pull feeling back here. That looks something like this. And as you can see, as I'm doing this, I really look tight and restricted in my shoulder because I have to lift it up beyond a natural point in order to get that feeling of pushing and pulling. Now, it's much better actually to allow your arm to sit in a more natural posture away from your body, and then learn how to do this motion, this turning motion in the upper arm. If you're tight in your shoulder, and that's why if you're tight in any part of the equipment that creates the vibrato, if you're tight in any part, it tends to create anomalies. The vibrato becomes tight, restricted. You can't do it in rhythm. It doesn't stay on its pitch. There's a million things that go wrong when you try to make your body do something that's unnatural and still do your vibrato. Okay, so what's the big difference as you get up into position here? Well, let's turn on the vibrato cam again. And as you go up on the instrument, there's some things that remain the same and some things that are different. When you're back here, your elbow can be a tad lower, and you can still achieve the vibrato. In fact, it's best if your elbow is a little bit lower. And your finger can still achieve the vibrato motion, and you can get this pushing and pulling feeling from the elbow forward. Now, as we get up in position here, the thing that hasn't changed is that magic pushing and pulling feeling that's so comfortable in fourth position. What's different about the experience up here is that now our finger is coming into the cello at a different angle. So when we're in fourth position, we're coming in nearly perpendicular to the string, okay? But when we come up here, well, you know, there's nothing we can do about it. In the end, our arm is attached all the way the heck back here, right? So because of that, and because now we've pulled farther away from our body, the vibrato and the angle of the vibrato has changed slightly in the hand. Now we can still do pushing and pulling down the string length. That's not really the problem. But what happens is people are rather disconcerted by the feeling that as they're doing their vibrato, and when they were in this position, they could go back and forth this way. When they're in position up here, their knuckle becomes more of a factor, and the pushing and pulling that they feel is a tad more complicated, I want to say, all right? But if the knuckle itself up here is pretty loose, then it should be that as we get up here, we can still do vibrato. Now, I guess my vibrato cam really doesn't show you the end of the finger. But what's going on at this point is that I'm still trying to push straight down the line of the string for my vibrato. And the difference is the angle of my first finger as it expresses the vibrato. It's more this way and not as much this way. We have to allow that different feeling to happen, because if we don't, again, we're contradicting what the body is, how the body is naturally positioned in order to do these things. So, do your vibrato exercises on all four fingers and in three positions. You'll want to do fourth position, first, second, third, and fourth finger vibrato. You'll want to do first position, carefully for your pitch, or you should use a pitch drawer, I guess. I don't know what else to call tunables. Something that draws the pitch graphically for you so that you can see if you're tending towards vibrating above or below the center of the pitch. Okay? And don't let yourself off the hook. When you get up into thumb position and you do your vibrato, there's a lot of people that won't even try to do a thumb vibrato. But actually, even though it may not be my nicest vibrato, it's possible to do a vibrato on the thumb. said it's not my nicest vibrato, and there's a good reason for that. Let's turn on the vibrato cam again. Okay, when I'm in position up here and I'm vibrating on my thumb, because I don't have the soft pad at the end of the finger that kind of squishes back and forth on the string, rather I'm using the fleshy part of the back of my thumb to produce the vibrato. There's more, I guess I want to say that the bone is closer to where the flesh actually touches the string, right? So that's one thing. Let me turn this thing off so that we don't all get irritated. The other thing about the thumb position, well, the thumb vibrato, I should say, the thumb vibrato, is that the thumb actually winds up rolling a little bit within the hand. I don't know if you can see this. It's very easy to get this mechanism from the thumb down into the arm very tight, and again, transfer your vibrato to a forearm rolling motion. I'd like you to try to avoid that as much as you can and restrict your motion to really a straight down the string and straight back up the string motion, trying to keep this part of it, again, level rather than rotating out of plane, right? So when you're on the thumb and you do this, you will feel that a different part of your thumb contacts the string as you go back in pitch and as you go forward in pitch. And you're also going to find that your thumb position callus becomes wider, because what will happen is if you do some vibrato on your thumb, it'll go from here all the way down to about here if you really are going to change pitch. And that's quite a wide area, and that's about the area that you use your first and second finger for. My vibrato goes from about back here all the way to around here. So when I'm doing my thumb position vibrato, again, it's really not a beautiful vibrato, but it shouldn't be that just because it's a thumb, it's simply not possible to do any vibrato at all. I think that's just too restrictive for modern technique. Okay, so that's how to do the vibrato exercises, and then I'll produce a video of just doing the vibrato exercises with no explanation whatsoever, and then we can do them together as part of our daily warm-up. Vibrato exercises. This is page 20 of an artist's guide to cello technique. I hope you enjoy working on this, or at least I hope it's not too much of a pain in the neck for you. Good luck.